Hey heroes, welcome back to our extended edition here. So we are talking chapters 19 and 20 of The Shadow Rising. Just wanted to take a little bit more time and kind of dive into these because they're a little bit longer segments in the book and things that deserve just a little more time. As we're
Yes, they
on,
do. Yes, they do.
we're the Wavedancer.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So, and this is a group of people known as the Sea Folk. So let me just go over them real quickly. The Atha'an Miere, they're a group of people whose ancestors essentially fled to the sea to escape the chaos of the breaking. And we hear about this island that they live on. Not much is known about them. I mean, they're just kind of, well, it's in chapter 19 right here. It's the first kind of mention where we get like that they spent time on, that those who do spend time on land, such as the governor of various seafolk islands, will return to sea to give birth, even if this is a small rowboat. Now, that's pretty crazy, right? So these are seafaring people who, it kind of reminds me of the Greyjoys in
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, just, yeah, like the sea is their home. It is where they found refuge and where they found safety. And were able to avoid some of the catastrophes that were happening in the breaking. So yeah, that's pretty cool. There are, and I'm not going to go into all these right now. This will be important as we get in. Well, maybe I guess it is mentioned. Yeah. So there are 4 classes of seafolk ship. You've got different types of them. I don't think this is major spoilers. We're on a raker right now, I believe. We're on what's titled a raker ship. You've got skimmers. I think rakers and skimmers are the only 2 that are mentioned right now. There's 2 other types that we can get to later. But yeah, rakers are also the faster. They've got 3 masts, and they can move quickly across the sea. They are the fastest known. I think they're the fastest known ships out there. You have an individual called a wind finder. So, traditionally, Aes Sedai are not allowed on board. Many believe them to be unlucky. This is the issue that Nynaeve and Elaine face out the gate in this chapter, which is they've been kind of told what to say, how to kind of maneuver their way onto this vessel. Yeah, so the reason they find out is, once they're on, I think it's in these chapters. I don't want to give anything away. Let me see here. I'm always jumping ahead. Let's just read through some of the summary so that way I don't mess this up.
Here, I'll go through the summary.
Yeah.
Elaine and Nynaeve arrive at the docks after a rough ride in the carriage. How did you manage to find every last rut and hole between here and the stone? The carriage has no sigil or house colors, as no Tyrian lord wants to be associated with Aes Sedai. The people there see at the docks that have obviously been treated badly by the High Lords of Tyr, and Elaine has the urge to teach these folks dignity. The Seafolk Rakier is the largest ship there, with 3 great towering masts amidship. And from the tales of the Atha'an Miere, it is often the mystery of far lands and different people. And Nynaeve blames the driver for a bad journey, and so Elaine pays him and gives him some praise before they leave. A kind word and a little praise were usually received as well as silver was, if not better. After the servant is gone, Nynaeve chastises Elaine for giving him too much money. We do not have the realm of Andor's resources to use for our own. As they walk to the rakier, Elaine advises Nynaeve to be tactful so that she doesn't offend the crew. The 2 spot women on the ship, who are obviously not ordinary crew. Both women have pierced ears and chains that run from their nose to their ear, with medallions hanging off the chain. They approach the 2 women, and remembering that what Moiraine has told them, they introduce themselves formally as being Aes Sedai of the Green Aja. Moiraine had seemed resigned to that more than anything else. The older of the 2 women introduces herself as Coin, sail mistress of Wavedancer, and the other as Joran Windfinder of Wavedancer. It is a surprise to Elaine that they are sisters because though she could see a resemblance, Joran looks much younger. Nynaeve asks to talk to asked to talk of their sailing and the gift of passage. The Seafold did not charge for passage. It was a gift, which just coincidentally would be exchanged for a gift of equal value. Yeah. Coin leads them back to the deck so they can talk. Goes on for a bit. As they enter the cabin, Elaine notices a helmet and without thinking gasp out Sanchan, as it's the helmet of a soldier. Coin, is that pronouncing that right? Coin?
I think so. Yeah. The
tells them that they met a Sanchan ship and the soldiers tried to board Wavedancer. I have the helmet to remind me. Nynaeve warns them about the Damani. The Sanchan keep on their ships. A female member of the crew brings them tea. And to their surprise, she was bare to the waist, just like the men above. The girls ordered to work in the bliges, where clothes are a hindrance. She apologizes to Elaine and Nynaeve, who quickly assure her that they aren't offended. They're just different ways among different people. We end up finding, they say they want to go to Tanchico. It's an unpleasant port. Much to Nynaeve's reluctance, Elaine explains about the Black Aja. We must find them. Surprisingly, it is Joran who insists that they're given passage. We can take them, my sister. We must. Before they can discuss anything else, a man, Coin's husband, enters in the cabin, talking of a trade. Much to his surprise, Coin informs him that they will be leaving before they can receive any of his trade. He reveals himself as the cargo master, but he is overruled by Coin about when they're about to leave. He is angered. And he discovers that they won't be sailing to Shara. Mm-hmm. What I have in my holds will bring little in Tanchico. She doesn't give an explanation as to why her plans have changed, and he leaves. Nynaeve asks why she didn't explain that they were going to Tanchico for the 3,000 gold crowns. Coin explains that many among the crew consider Aes Sedai bad luck, and if they knew of the Black Aja, their passage would be troubled. Both Elaine and Nynaeve agree to hide their rings, and the fact that they are Aes Sedai for the voyage, Coin tells them that she will not accept the money and that I will put it in a gift of passage from my own chest. Despite Joran's argument that it will anger Toram further, before they can talk further, the ship suddenly rolls and they are in fierce water. Not the Tyran docks. Joran and Coin leave to check on the ship.
Yeah, so this is the idea here is they basically use the prophecy of the Coromor, which is their they believe that one will come that is going to, that will be their savior, essentially, that will save them, that will be there to fight in the last battle, this whole thing. There's even elements of this prophecy that kind of say that the Aes Sedai will serve the Coromor and that they'll wash his feet. That's mentioned. And so they kind of say, hey, we are serving the Coromor. And the Black Aja is out there. We have to go to Tanchico to stop them. It is this Windfinder who surprises them by saying, hey, we need to give them passage. And is very much so like, more than the sail mistress is saying, I'm a believer in this and we need to help. The other thing is that Aes Sedai are not often given passage, and so since they're refused passage, they typically just don't ask. But in this situation, it's odd that they are asking, so it must be because of some dire need, right? There must be something real serious for the Aes Sedai to come ask us for help. And if they're going to, well, then this could be the Jendai prophecy coming fulfilled, and they want to. They basically say that Rand is holding Kalendor, and that the Aiel support him. So it is helping the Sea Folk kind of realize we've heard those rumors. Now they're being confirmed by Aes Sedai, who are saying they're of the Green Aja. We know that their oaths require them to tell the truth. And so they can't lie to us. Holy smokes, this is real. This is happening, and we need to help. And, you just get a little bit more about their culture, and you kind of understand that, they're all which Helene and Nynaeve are totally thrown off by. They're all, remember when I said you were, that comment was brought up about nudity in Wheel of Time, and I told you, I was like, there will come a group that I'm going to say, like, I don't know how they're going to avoid it because, like, anytime they're on the ships, I mean, the women and men, and it's for necessity. It's not because of anything else. It's just because the clothing got in the way. I mean, like it could get caught on something that was swinging by. It could tear the whole thing.
I feel like you could totally just have them wear like minimal clothing and
I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying
right. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm sure there will be book purists who will freak out, but that's an easy fix.
And also, you could imply that they're nude and not show, or not nude, but like topless and not show it if you don't want to. It doesn't really matter. I think they're gonna. I mean, like the whole thing is too that they're, it's a progressive series. They're gonna it's a practical thing. It's not Game of Thrones like where it's a sex appeal. It's, what I'm saying. It's not like it's a culture shock is what it is. It's just different. That's all it is. So yeah, there's that. I think it's totally different. But anyways, I thought I'd bring it up because it's funny when people are like, well, yeah, why wouldn't Matt understand why there would be nudity in this? It's like, well, we haven't got there yet. I mean,
I haven't got there yet, man.
And this is not the only situation. There are more of these to come. So, but yeah, it's cool. It's a cool little being on the Wavedancer. It's a big long conversation. There's negotiating. It's funny. It's passage is a gift, but and for the gift, you're going to exchange a gift, which just happens to be money, so it's not really, you're not paying us, but we're thanking you for the gift of travel. It's just a way of, it's a phrasing, and I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, they're pretending to be Green Aja, by the way. I wanted to point that out. Moraine was not necessarily happy, about that. So yeah.
Okay. Chapter 20. Winds rising. So Elaine and Nynaeve go up to the deck to see what's going on. Elaine believes that her letter caused Rand to overreact and channel. Men always overreact when they let their emotions go. They then notice that Tom and Julian are trying to board the ship, and Coin tells them that they want passage. Under normal circumstances, she couldn't refuse them, but I will do so if you ask. Coin knows that Julian as twice he has found those who has pilfered from us. Nynaeve and Elaine decide to talk to the two men before making up their minds as to whether or not to ask them to refuse passage. As they approach the two men, Elaine thinks she recognizes Tom. She has been struck by something familiar about him, though she cannot remember why. She then asks Julian why he wants to travel to Tanchico and reminds him that you have not served us very well. He points out that the very last time he saw them, he helped them escape from their cell in the stone. Nynaeve is not happy about being reminded that they needed help that time. He then tells them that he was woken by Lan, who asked him to accompany them to Tanchico. Apparently, Rand also gave this message for Julian, telling him to do that, and I was given a great quantity of gold. Both men were empathetic that if they did not return in one piece, shall we just say it would be better to drown myself than to come back.
Yeah.
Tom then explains that a lady of mutual acquaintance, Moraine, asked him about to accompany them. He has been to Tanchico before and can help you with a good many things. Elaine is once again struck with the familiarity of Tom and pulls one of his mustaches. I seem to remember doing that before. Nynaeve then agrees that they should be allowed passage and makes the two men swear that if they do as they are told, to do as they are told. Both agree reluctantly and go to see Coin. Nynaeve explains that they must be firm with Tom and Julian because they know that they are accepted, not Aes Sedai, and that will not aid them in their search for the Black Aja. She doesn't trust either of them because Julian Sandar betrayed us once before, and for Tom, he admits being sent by Moraine. A Tyrian pilot is ushered about, and they sail through the fingers of the dragon. As they see the sea of storms, the pilot leaves the ship and they sail out into the sea. When they can no longer see land, all the women take their blouses off, as is customary of the sea folk. Elaine talks to Tom when she sees that he is alone on the deck. Are you not happy, Master Marilyn? Tom explains that he feels trapped, probably, talking about how Moraine convinced him into going, though Elaine doesn't know this. He talks of how the events leading up to Tarmon Gai'don will be known in the next age, that the characters will all be changed. 24 generation, and you may be the hero of it. He then talks about legends from the age before the Age of Legends.
You can skip this part, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just skip on to the next. Yeah, he does. He talks about the age of legends, you know, and just like which seem familiar, which may like how things will change and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, then he goes on to talk about Shara and the land of the Aiel Waste, and he kind of explains that the sea folk only see a few miles around the handful of harbors where they're permitted land. So, you know, it's like first of all, the mention of Shara is interesting because it's one of those things you talked about being on the map that's like beyond the Aiel Waste, this land of Shara, which is where they were going to go. They said, hey, we're going to go there, but now we're going to go to Tenchico. And the sail mistress is sort of like, look, I know her husband actually is in charge of all their trade and their goods and all that kind of stuff. And he's a little upset because everything that they had in their on ship was to trade there, and now they're not going to be able to do that. So, you know, that kind of sucks for them, but it's because of this great need, and it's secrecy. They won't even tell the men, you know, really what these Aes Sedai, like why. It's just you listen to the sail mistress, she says so, and so therefore we're going there. Another interesting thing is Elaine noticing Tom, right, and noticing that there's this connection between, like she's seeing that Tom is familiar, doesn't really know quite how and why.
Well, we know that Tom and her mom have had something going on.
Something, yeah. That's been hinted at and everything. Exactly. So yeah, that's interesting. That starts kind of a whole little thing. She'll continue to think about, you know, that for some bit. This is the part I wanted to make sure of. Okay, right down here. Elaine realizes that the sea folk do not carry Aes Sedai. She realizes why they don't carry Aes Sedai. That it's why their decision to not let them board is because that the White Tower will try to interfere. And Elaine can't deny. No, let's talk about why. She's realizing that the Windfinder can channel. Did you catch that?
No.
Okay, not all Windfinders can channel. Some channelers are sent to the White Tower to avoid suspicion. Elaine promises to try to keep track of the secret. So you see, like I didn't know if it was this chapter or the very next, because they're going to be on this Wavedancer for another chapter or so, and it's right at the end. But it's the Wind Finder, and this is kind of the thing going back to our main show. It's you kind of have to accept that there are things. The reason I kind of go back and comb back over the last couple books and make connections to the new stuff we're experiencing is because, yeah, this could easily have been missed. I mean, this is something that as we move on, you know, just to highlight, and this is not to put anybody down or like some people, attention to details would have caught, maybe even would have caught a chapter previous, like, okay, there's something, you know, interesting about this Windfinder wanting to help. All of a sudden, when she hears about the Aes Sedai, she hears about Black Aja and the Koromor. And you might even suspect, like, why are they so much faster? What makes them so much faster? And in this, you might not, if you're reading through this, you might have missed this part, like where Windfinders can channel. It could have been a couple chapters, and you go, wait, they can channel? Yes, and that was just mentioned here quickly. It's right towards the end of this chapter, but the reason they avoid suspicion is because they will every once in a while send one of their girls that can channel to the tower to avoid that suspicion. It's a secret. It is a huge secret, and Elaine agrees to kind of keep that secret because otherwise Aes Sedai would come down there and they would be testing and they would be, you know, looking for more of these Windfinders and they would take them, and because they want them to be in there. They want the tower to be strong and full of people who swear their oaths and use the power the way, you know, for that are all kind of on the same playing field. You know, we see the issue with the Damani on Falma and them channeling and them using the one power for destruction and just to kill and to fight men. And the Aes Sedai, they're like, wait, we don't use the power just to kind of go out and win wars. We don't do that. But could the Windfinders do that? Are they bound to any oath or anything? No, not necessarily. So Elaine can kind of see why they want to keep this a secret, because the Aes Sedai, the tower, would come in and they would want to know more, and they would require, they would kind of somehow start to subdue their channelers and bring them under their order. So
yeah, well, and it's just like you said about missing stuff, because I caught when I asked you some questions about it was book 2, or no, it was the last book, right? When I was asking you some stuff about, like, well, hold on a second, I thought Balismon was the Dark One. You're like, yeah, a lot of people missed that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they do, and there's a lot of things that people will. I mean, dude, this is a series.
It's gonna be my second or third read through, or read through of this, where I feel like
I still catch things. I'm catching things right now, like as we go through, and I'm realizing, like I'm looking at stuff. So I'm in the Fires of Heaven right now, and some of the stuff that we just were coming back over. Well, actually, okay, I'll say this. Like, even as I look ahead, or you look back at those chapters where they talk about Tenchiko and what's going on. Look, okay, Egwene has a dream. She's in the dream world, and she sees things in Tenchiko. They're described just like, dude, I mean, like 2 to 3 sentences. They're described, things that she sees in Tenchiko. And you think, whatever. Like, I mean, at that point in time, to you as a fresh new reader, you're like, okay, she sees these things. We'll get to that later. But me, having read it, numerous times, I was like, holy crap. Like, that's what she saw, and that's what that thing is, and that's what this is over here. And it's cool because in a reread, you see what a masterful writer Robert Jordan is. Because on the first read, it's exciting. And it's like, wow, there's so much happening. There is so much here. I'm only catching 60 to 70 to 80% of it. That other percentage of stuff that's layered in there it's for example, it's like when I was talking to Matt Hatch, and we're going through stuff. That's a guy who's read the series for years, who is a beta reader for the series, who reads thick novels and looks at and makes and finds catches on a first read way more on a first read than I would ever catch on a first read. And so it's so interesting. It's so easy to miss something in a series this thick. And for some people, things are super clear, and for some, they're not. I remember when I first read this series, I was like, I just have to. I knew, I knew who I am as a reader, and I said, I've got to blitz through this thing. I've got to get to the end so I understand the big outcomes, and then I'm going to come back and read this again. And I did. And thankfully, I had my buddy Tom at the time to kind of talk about it. I was like, dude, I had misconceptions on what you could and couldn't do with the power. I had misconceptions on the things that you asked me off the podcast, which is like, so what is the wheel? What is this whole, I mean, how is the world structured, and the power, structures? And then when you get into all of these names, you have a lot of people who have different names. We just got done talking about, I don't know if we kept it in or not, but we mentioned in the main show, Boars. And that's a secret name. It's a secret identity. You don't know who that is. You're meant to not know until they flat out reveal it later. Yeah. And so that is, I think it's, that's interesting. So yeah, I don't expect people to get all of these, all of these things. And that's where I've realized that, like, I do have to be careful, because I want people to experience this at their own time, at their own pace, and people are just kind of following along, gathering, Matt's thoughts. There were hints. There were hints about the sword and different things. Oh, and then sometimes, like, when do you make the connection that, like, oh, he went from, like, actually having a heron mark blade that was destroyed? Because when it's destroyed, it's like that. You don't even realize that, okay, that's just destroyed. And the next thing you know, he has a power forged blade that he is making out of the one power that is, similar to the blade that he had before, but it's not actually the blade because it was destroyed. That happened so quick that I totally get why. I mean, I don't remember that actually even being like, oh, okay. So yeah, we've moved on. It's a power rod sword, and the blade is what could destroy that. Land says that it can't be destroyed, that it was made by the one power. Everything we're told is that it can't be destroyed, but yet you could easily overlook that because it's not like it's emphasized a whole lot, and that Rand thinks on it a whole lot. I mean, there is a moment where he thinks about Tam's sword afterwards, but then he just quickly makes his own. It's what he can do with the power. And it's one of those minor points where I'm like, it's not a minor point, but it's like, I don't know, if you miss that, I'm not so worried about, it doesn't change what the story, you know what I mean? The story. Right. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool. So but you see, my dilemma was earlier, I was like, well, shoot, did they reveal that the Windfinders are, because I just had to, because the chapters for me blend together so much. Like I know arcs, right? I know that Nynaeve and Elaine stepped on the ship, and I know when they will step off the ship, and I know what happens during that block of time. But to segment it into chapters, that's not something. I don't have the chapter titles memorized.
No.
Oh yeah.
I don't have
Rising,
that.
You know, or
I don't have that in like in Game of Thrones, which is something I know, obviously particularly well.
Yeah.
Either. I don't know. I can tell you what happens, but I can't tell you, specifically this chapter.
Right.
This one minute thing happens, and
we just know their arcs. Yeah. We know their sequence of events, their plot points. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, that is our extended edition. So we'll be back next time, and we'll be doing an extended edition for the next block of chapters 20 through 27. So things are heating up, and the shadow is rising. But fortunately, we have you guys here supporting us here on Patreon. We really appreciate it. And we all know that you will be here to answer